Hello, welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. My name is Karen Seltz. I am your host. And the topic tonight is how to be calm in the midst of a storm. I think this is a really important topic to discuss because almost everything that we experience can be so much better if we have a calm nervous system. And depending on how many difficult events or traumatic events you've experienced, if you've had a high number of those, you can be triggered by absolutely anything. So let me explain. The subconscious mind is constantly working, it's constantly filtering information through the reticular activating system, or the RAS. And one of the things it's looking for is, does anything I'm experiencing right now remind me of any events that were difficult or traumatic in the past? So if you have a great number of those, it is much more likely to find something. And it could be something as simple as it's a sunny day, or it's raining, or there's a certain smell like that reminds you of that time of year, or the climate, or something like that. It can be absolutely anything. And unless you've cleared these using lots of different ways, but unless you've cleared them, they are very present. And the other thing is the subconscious mind only thinks in the present tense. So when it finds one of these, indicators that something is awry, that, oh my gosh, remember that time when you weren't safe? Remember that. It thinks that event is happening right now. So it produces all these emotions and it begins the fight or flight process. If it goes into hyper vigilance or hyper use, or it can go into hypo, which means under, which is the faint or the fawn or freeze response. Either way, you do not have access to your logical brain or your entire body, even when that happens. So you don't even have choices, which blows my mind because most of us think that we're at choice all the time. But by the time we're 35 years old, we are running on a set of programs, and things can be added or subtracted. If we experience more traumatic events after that, of course, they go in the mix. And if we have a large number of those and we're not dealing with it, our systems, our nervous systems are so taxed. It's exhausting. And, I'm sure you've heard this, but the production of cortisol goes up. That's the stress hormone that causes you to hold on to fat because it's in survival. It thinks I could starve. So I better hold on to this, better keep my energy in reserve for that, famine, potato famine. It could be anything, right? So I teach people how to show up authentically with authority on video. And I did this live today regarding grounding yourself in the present moment, reminding your nervous system that you are safe in the moment. And when I did this, I'm like, you know what? This applies to absolutely every situation. It's not just speaking, it's any perceived threat, any perceived danger that we have. And there's the big thing, perceived. Now, I teach people how to show up on video, right? Do you think that there is a possibility of them dying by going on video? No, of course not. I mean, if they're spewing speech, there's a possibility of it happening down the line. But in that moment, it's highly unlikely. Yet, to our nervous systems, it feels like we could die, like that rejection or anything that is unknown, which means anything we haven't experienced before, it doesn't see as safe. So there are some ways you can keep reminding yourself that you are safe in this moment. You are safe. And I'm going to share some of those with you because I think it's really, really an important topic. So many of us have small lives because our nervous systems have ruled us. And it makes sense because they're very convincing. They produce these emotions that, set all kinds of things in motion. Like, when we go into, I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack or anxiety attack, but physiologically, the cues were sent to the brain and to the body through the central nervous system 1 hour before that panic attack took place. Now, most people who've had them say that came on just like that. Like all of a sudden, everything got narrow. They started hyperventilating. They couldn't see. Their heart started racing. Their palms started sweating. Look at me, you're talking. You could tell I've had one. I like, and that's what happens. And when you get scared like that and you start hyperventilating, your body's trying to get more oxygen. It doesn't really work. And one of the quickest ways to slow that process down is to slow down your breathing, just become conscious and consciously slow your breathing down. And you can say something like, in this moment, I am safe. In this moment, I am safe. And when you slow down your breathing, become conscious of it, something happens. And here's a little trick. If you count your inhale, so say you're trying to slow it down, it's not working, and you count to 3. Make sure you extend your exhale at least 1 to 2 counts longer. When your exhale is longer than your inhale, your central nervous system says, oh, things must be okay. If I have time to exhale that slowly, I must not be in danger. It's a little trick, but it works beautifully. And once you get good at that, say you're counting to 4 and on the exhale, you're counting to 6. In the middle of that, you could do something called, it's a Taoist box breathing. And Tao, for some reason, is spelled T-A-O. I have no idea why, but it's pronounced with a D. Who knows? Probably a different language, right? The Taoist box breathing is a really simple thing. It is not easy when you're in a stress response. So it goes like this. You inhale for the count of 5, and it could be like a quick 5 or a slow 5, as long as you keep it steady throughout the breath. So if I'm counting it for other people, I count backwards so they know. So it'd be like, inhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath in for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's 5, 7, 8. And that is a beautiful practice. It's been around for thousands of years because it works. So that's just one simple thing you can do. Now, when I used to do public speaking in person, I taught this workshop called Cat Got Your Tongue. So it was like when you got caught off guard at a meeting at work or something and you didn't know what to do, and you could feel your nervous system ramping up. In order to buy yourself time, I taught these techniques. But one of them wasn't to buy time. It was actually to ground yourself in the present moment. Because in this moment, 9 times out of 10, probably more than that, you are safe. It seems like a threat, but you're not being threatened. So one way to do that, to ground yourself in the present moment, is to just take a breath, slow breath, and look around the room and find 3 objects. Or if there's somebody in the room that is a calming object for you, you can count them as one of your objects. And then just simply in your head say, ring light, trampoline. It's not in my room, but it's out my window. I have a trampoline in my room. Well, some people have those little ones, but I'm talking about a big one. And calendar. So by doing that, I'm getting my head out of that cycle, like, oh my gosh, this trauma is happening right now. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And you're like, oh, it distracts you in one way, but it also brings you right back to the present moment, to where you are. Because when you're stressed like that, you are not in your body usually, and you're not in the room. You're back at some previous memory that the subconscious mind is replaying as if it's happening right now. And where you get stuck in these loops is it produces all these chemicals, right, in your body. And emotions, the purpose of emotions is to get you to do something. They're prompters for an action. But with the subconscious mind, it wants you to take action on something that may have happened 10 years ago. It's impossible. You can't change what you did. Well, unless you can time jump. And that's a whole different topic. So it creates a lot of stress and dis-ease in the body. So when you can come back to the present moment and remind yourself that you're safe, it's a beautiful thing. right? The next thing that I want to share is something really brilliant. And I love this. This one, you don't really use it in the moment until later. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So it's from neuro linguistic programming, or NLP. And the basic premise is any emotional state you have ever experienced, you can experience right now. You can tap into anything, it's already in there. Like your mind is a beautiful storage device. Even though it doesn't seem like it sometimes, you're like, what did I eat last night or whatever? Can't remember where you put your keys, right? But it actually stores everything. It's just learning how to access it. So if you have a state of being, like say courage, that you want to embody, and you're like, oh, I don't feel very courageous. I feel really scared. Well, courage is doing the thing scared, right? That's what it is. So when you can remember a time when you actually did it scared, what's something you were really afraid to do and you did it anyway? And what did you feel afterward? What did you feel like afterward? Like so proud of yourself, like I am a badass. Whatever it is, remember that. And I'm going to go further. There is something you can do called you create a list of, I call them like badass moments or BAMs. Bam. Badass moments. And those were the moments where you were really, really proud of yourself. You were generous, you were kind, you were compassionate. You responded out of love instead of protecting yourself or attacking someone. I mean, really make a list of those, or times you accomplished something you can't believe you did. Whatever makes you feel really good and happy or grateful, the emotional states that you really want to embody on a regular basis in your life. Maybe even abundance. When did you feel abundant in your life? And it doesn't have to be pertaining to money. It could be anytime you felt abundant. Could have been you were around friends and you felt so loved and so connected. That's, for me, that's abundance, right? So think about those. And if you're willing, make a list. And then next to whatever the memory is, write down the ways of being that you accessed. So when I did this live, the scariest live I ever did, I called it my spiritual coming out of the closet. What ways of being did I access? Well, authenticity, for sure, courage, um, compassion for myself. I mean, I was so scared when I did this, and I was super duper vulnerable. Vulnerability. Okay. So you make a list of what ways of being you accessed. So when you have something coming up, and you're like, oh, there has to be a time when I was courageous. You just pull out your list and you go down those lists of the list of ways of being. And you're like, okay, this one really exemplifies courage for me. And you go back, you can close your eyes and you can just remember going through the whole thing. And then when you get to that end state where you're like, I did it, yes, then this is where you play. This is where you play with your state. So in NLP, they work with three different fields in general: the visual field, the kinesthetic field, which is touch or feeling, and the auditory, which is hearing. So in order to anchor that state into your body so that you can recall it whenever you want, you get to practice. You get to practice remembering being in that state. And then you choose an anchor. Now, an anchor is a physical touch reminder of that state of being. So if you want to access courage, maybe you get in the superhero pose, like you're like standing up and your chest is out, your hands are on your hips, and you're feeling like unstoppable. Your feet are spread apart. You're like, okay, I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. Okay. So then that is your anchor. And it could be as simple as this, because here's the other thing. If you're going to be accessing it in public, you want to make sure that it's something you're comfortable doing in public. So if you're about to go on stage and speak, in the back, there might be people watching. You may or may not care if they see you in superhero pose. Some people choose like this, or they'll just touch some part of their arm or their leg, whatever reminds you. Just, it doesn't have to be anything. It could be some type of mudra. It could be anything. So just choose some type of physical thing that you could do, like something you touch. You have to access the touch. You could do this. Ooh, Fancy. All right, so that is your kinesthetic sense. Then for your auditory, you're going to choose some short saying, like your slogan or your mantra. So like I said, I was in superhero, I'm a badass, or I've got this. I've got this. So it could be absolutely anything that resonates for you, that reminds you that you've done it before and you can do it again. Okay. So that's your auditory. You can say that in your head. You can say it out loud, whatever. You're still hearing it, with your internal voice, you're hearing it. The next one is the visual. Now for the visual, you're going to choose a symbol. It could be absolutely anything. It could be you at the top of a mountain going like this, or it could be the infinity sign. It doesn't have to have you in it. It could be absolutely anything that when you think of that, you visualize it in your mind, it reminds you of that peak state. So what does courage look like to you? And the subconscious mind thinks in metaphors, pictures, symbols. So when you get that, the subconscious mind is going to associate all three of those things with that state of courage. Now, here's the thing. In order for this to work in a pinch, you get to practice it. So I recommend practicing it. Easy for me to say, practicing it every single day. And just take 2 minutes, 1 minute and practice. Okay, what I'm practicing courage. Okay, so remember that time I did that thing? Okay, close my eyes, visualize it. All right, I got my anchor. It's this, I'm a badass, and there's me at the top of a mountain, or whatever it is. Like you do all three kind of in succession or at once, and you remember that feeling and really feel it in your body, feel it. And you can even say to yourself, this is what courage feels like. This is what courage feels like. I am courageous. Whatever works for you. So then once you practice that enough, all you're going to do is like touch your anchor or say you're saying. You don't even have to do all three. Once you get it in there, they're all together. So when you're going to present to your boss or ask for a raise, you just like do your thing in the bathroom and then go. You're ready to go. You're already courageous. You have access to it. And you can do that with anything, any state you want, but you get to practice it. That's why I said you got to practice it. You can't necessarily access it right away with those tools. You can still access it. It takes some practice in my experience. So play with that. Let me know how that goes. I love that so much. So again, let's just review. You had your breathing where you're exhaling for longer than you're inhaling. And then just consciously remember to slow down your breath. You can do the Taoist box breathing, which is inhale for 5, hold for 7, exhale for 8. You can ground yourself in the present moment by choosing 3 objects in the room and just saying them in your head. Remember, like trampoline, ring light, calendar. And then you can also do the more long-term one, which is the NLP anchor, choosing your anchor. Doesn't it feel good already? Just knowing you have some tools to use. I love this. So let me know, comment, which is your favorite one? Which one are you going to use? And let me know how it goes for you. I would love to hear. It's always fun to experiment. And please share this. If you know anybody who experiences anxiety or who's stressed out or overwhelmed, please share this with them. It would be my honor if you shared it. If you are new to me, again, my name is Karen Seltz. I am a confidence and visibility coach. I support coaches and entrepreneurs in using their voices, in integrating their heads and their hearts through this throat center, using their voice, attracting their ideal clients so they can create the impact and income that they're here for. I've been with you for over a year on this show, and I'm so glad. If you're just finding me, welcome and thank you. I will see you right here next week. I'm live every week on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can join live. You can find the link on my Linktree or Facebook, Instagram, all the places. It's everywhere. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Mwah.